This one goes out to my baby girl, beautifulest girl in the world. You got me, and people know this ain't lie. What tell you more? Got up this morning while I've been thinking hard. Jumped in my ride, put on a good facade. I seen the boys and they be keeping loud. Cranked up the beats and then the party started. Pulled out the drinks and then the party swayed. Some whiskey, red label, and Alizé. They asked for slow jams, followed with some slow dance. A bit of grooving with a bit of romance. They asked for slow jams.
Alright, what up, family? Okay, so we got another episode of Simplistics. On today's episode, we got the brother Ashley Davis on. Okay, and yeah, actually, without any further ado, let me put him on screen. So Ash. Okay, we're gonna have a bit of a conversation us two, yeah. Give us a bit of background on yourself, my bro.
Well, I'm 43 years old. I was born in Te Puti in the King Country. Grew up in the King Country, spent most of my time growing up in a small town called Kāpia. The home of Tainui, at Tainui Canoe, rested there. So my formative years have been in Kāpia, a really small coastal town. Really strong Māori background in the town as well. And from there went to Otoronga College for 5 years, boarded there, so we got to go home every weekend. And then went to university in Waikato. I got a Bachelor of Management Studies in Strategic Management. After that, I kind of went overseas for 5 months, travelling by myself throughout the USA, and came back. Didn't really know what I wanted to do with my degree, so I spent about a year and a half working as a support worker with people with intellectual disabilities. And that was really, really interesting. I got to understand, to respect people, and understand that everyone has differing abilities rather than what they can't do. Everyone can actually do something. And so learning to treat people with respect, even though they did have disabilities.
Can you just go into a little bit of detail, just to explain that a little bit more?
Well, I guess when I was dealing with these adults, they were older than me at that time, but were like 6-year-olds. And I remember my first day on the job, and I had to get them to follow me and into a car, and they wouldn't. And I was trying to coax them, and it took one of those sport workers to tell me you've got to treat them like an adult, that there's consequence. So you've got to give them choices. So it wasn't you have to come with me. It's like, well, we're off to go and do this now. So you can either come now, so we can go and do this, what we're doing, whether it's art or we can sit here by ourselves and do nothing. And so by giving them those choices, they would follow you. They understood that. Rather than expecting, I'm telling you what to do, so that's what we're doing. And not understanding that actually you're treating them like a kid, so they're going to act like a kid. And so that, from that I learned a lot about people and how to try and treat people with respect. And you're likely to get that respect back.
Yep.
After that, I was a bit disillusioned because I wasn't progressing. I was young and I was wanting to become a coordinator, which was the next level up. And I applied for a couple of positions and got rejected because I didn't have the time in the game. And so I got a bit disillusioned and ended up going back to university and working as a student support facilitator, which I've done part-time while I was a student. And I was looking at going further in my education and working in the management school when an opportunity arose at Auckland University to work in the Halls of Residence. So throughout my university degree, I was working. So I was working as a residential assistant in the Hall. I was Waikato University, and eventually for 3 years I became a deputy manager of a hall in my last year of uni. And so when this opportunity arose, it was a half residential management role up at the university after looking after South Academy properties. And the other half was organising activities for the railway campus, which is the fun part of the job, was organising big dinners twice a year, orientation week for 500 students, as well as the students in the South Academy properties. So it was a 24/7 live on-site job, my phone was my Curtis, and I did that for 5 years. But it was a fantastic job. I was young in Auckland City with a 3-bedroom apartment, right in the central city, no rent, great salary, and a massive social life. And I loved the job. I learned a lot about people and students and what pastoral care meant. And that's like creating a community and getting people to interact with each other and how you do that with different cultures. So where I lived, there were no Kiwis. It was all international students mostly.
Right.
And so I got to, and they were all older than me. They were where I actually lived in Park Road student flats. They were all postgraduate students. So married couples, people in their 50s, 60s living with me, and I was their resident manager. And my job was to try and create a community with a bunch of strangers. And I eventually did that with food, having a potluck dinner. And in that potluck dinner we had started with, out of the 40 rooms, we had about 15 turn up, and by the time I left, which was 5 years later, we would have 80 people there, more people than we actually had rooms, because we had people from previous years coming back, or friends that lived in Auckland that really liked that atmosphere. So I really enjoyed that community side of it. And after I became redundant from the job, there was some restructure. It was another opportunity to learn something different, and I eventually got into selling mobility scooters for old people. That was really cool. Did that for about 9 months before I ended up going into this fitness, selling gym equipment for the country. And that stage was about 32, and I got a bit of itchy feet to go overseas, and eventually got a visa to go over to the UK. And here I found this job on Gumtree. It was just the website. It was just a general assistance role for a young company that had just started up. A young Australian company, a couple had moved to the UK and were setting up a wholesale business. And I went for the interview and got the general assistant role. And they were just a young couple working out of the garage, out of the house, and it was selling fashion jewelry. So earrings, necklaces, bracelets, scarves, bags, stuff I had no clue about. But they were a really good couple. They had a real strong passion for what they were doing and what they believed in. And it wasn't just selling stuff to make money to be rich. They wanted to set up an orphanage in Southwest China. And they were an Australian couple, really strong Christian faith and belief. And I just loved their passion for what they were doing and why they were doing it. And they were working hard. It was 7 days a week. And not only did they have the business in the UK that they were running, but they were running a company in Hong Kong. And they were running a company in Australia, and they had a subsidiary business in New Zealand. And this was this young couple in their late 20s working, bone and teeth, stressing about money, and it was an opportunity for me to go, yeah, I can do this. I've never done it before, but I can take calls, I can process orders, I can fill out, do accounts, and so I said, yeah, let's do it. And so I stayed with them for 5 years, and through that 5 years, the business grew and flourished, and they wanted to start a family, and so they had the idea of moving back to Australia, and so it presented the opportunity to become a general manager. And it was a big step for me at that time to take on the responsibility financially and looking after the staff and agents and stock, and I took that, and it was probably one of the best learning experiences in terms of my business experience of learning about how to run a business and all the sales and the marketing and the relationships that you need to have with your suppliers and also the staff. And so I really enjoyed my time in Scotland in terms of my experience at work, but also the opportunity to learn about different cultures and to see different cultures. And it's not just the places that you go to, like Paris and Florence and all these amazing Barcelona and Croatia, amazing places, and they're stunning, but it's the people that you meet, and it's spending time with them and learning about their culture and the way that they do things that you learn to appreciate different points of view. And so that was really big for me. Coming back to New Zealand in 2013, I wanted to get away. I didn't want a job that paid a lot of money, because I've always been fortunate in being paid well and being able to go and buy stuff. And coming home, I kind of let go of a lot of stuff that I had, and gave away a lot of stuff, and I just had it for 3 boxes. And that was a really good learning for me, that it's not all about the money, it's about the people that you can spend time with. My mum wasn't well at the time, and so I got to spend more time with her. So this part-time role with my current job, as an office manager and program administrator for a risk consulting firm, allowed me to spend more time with my family and coaching and netball and doing and giving back to those kind of communities, people that are giving to me. I've enjoyed that aspect since I've been home in my current role. It's not general manager, but it provided a different challenge in another industry that I had no idea about, risk management. I thought about risk management, I was thinking, is that insurance? And what I've come to understand is actually risk management you can apply to many different things. Like everything that you learn, you should be able to apply what you learn from what you do to other things.
So, just on their job basis, so what you guys actually do is the risk management of just explain a little bit on that risk management side.
When I looked at the website when I applied for the job, and I think I'm quite intelligent. I've worked in business, for over 20 years, and I thought, okay, let's see what they're about. And I read it, and it just flew over my head. I had no concept of what they actually did. It all sounded convoluted, but basically what they do is they look at what's stopping people from being able to do something for businesses. They look at what their purpose is, and they tend to do things that people find too hard to do. So, for one example, one of the big projects that our company's worked on is Queenstown Airport could only fly in it during the day because the approach to the runway was too narrow, it was too short, the visibility was bad, you were basically flying through mountains, and you could only do that safely during the daytime. And so Queenstown Airport wanted to actually fly in at night. And so they employed our company and my boss to look at how to make that happen. So it took a 2.5 year process and a lot of money and a lot of research and a lot of investigation on what's happening around the world. And so they came up with a safety case of, to be able to make this happen, this is what you need to do. You need to look at what's stopping you and what you can do to mitigate that from stopping that from happening. What are the things that you can put in place?
So are they sort of like, okay, so they find answers to say a lot of problems that maybe a lot of companies are having, but at the same time they cover the health and safety aspect of it as well.
That's part of risk management, but it's not just about life and death. If you think about anything that you do, there is a risk involved. And what that basically means is, what's the consequence of you making these decisions or things happen? So what's the likelihood? Is that going to happen? And what likelihood is it? And what is and then what is the consequence? If that happens, what's the end result? And being able to identify that so you can prepare yourself.
So it's more of a scrutiny into what you want to do, and the questions you should be asking yourself when it comes to risk management within your company. Is that right?
It's looking at what your purpose is and what can stop you, right? And I've been able to identify those.
Yeah.
And the risk management of that is just being able to take that a step further and being able to be honest and being able to be objective. And I guess that's the hardest part, because it works best when you have workshop situations where you can get lots of people in to share their viewpoints
Right.
on what their viewpoints are on things and all those purposes. And so they tend to pull in and have workshops with people with a lot of knowledge on those areas, and they tend to ask questions to be able to get the information they need to find the best way forward.
Okay. Qualifications. Did you need any qualifications for this job?
To do my job, I basically need to have at least a business degree. Although there's lots of degrees that you can have to get into this type of role. But what they're looking for, because although I don't do risk consulting, I am part of it, so I have to be able to understand what they do. I don't actually have to be able to do it. And so for me, I see this as an opportunity to learn about risk management, and then I try and apply it to what I do. So one of the things that I've learned, or one thing that I implemented is coaching. What's one of the biggest risks is, for me, shooters not being able to shoot, or that they're not getting high percentage. So then you look at what's stopping them from doing that. And so a quick question I had was, are they practicing? And
Here we go. We're going to take this one.
they're practicing. What's stopping them from practicing? So I asked my girls that I coach, and I said, so do you have a goal? Oh, do you have a goal at home? No. Is there a cold goal close by? And a couple said yes, but it's in a school, and I don't finish work till late. And so I said to them, so if I could provide you a goal for the season, would you practice at home? And they said yes. So then I supplied that goal. So it meant that the likelihood of them having higher percentages if they practice at home. And so risk management looks at, well, okay, so what's stopping them? They have it. And it's about investigating why and the likelihood of their result. And, I did see this season that our shooting percentage did increase, but that's, if you can look at that at many different levels. And then it's identifying the real key ones that make the biggest impact and focusing your time on that. Because you could do it for everything, but you don't have time to do everything. It's about finding those key things that have the biggest consequence and likelihood that you should focus on first. No risk management expert by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, when it comes to sports, I think, yeah, you probably are. But we'll get there. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Just with kids, all right? With kids, sort of coming up. Now, you explained a little bit, about where you traveled to and what you done and and you sort of found yourself, would I be correct in saying ready to settle now? You're settled in your job and... or you still...
I guess I'm more comfortable in myself, and I think that's quite important for me. And it's probably taken me until I've gone to my 40s that I find to felt that way. I can reflect now on my life, and like on Saturday I went back to my Otaronga College reunion, and so that was 25 years was my last year there, was a sixth former. And I got to reflect back on my life, on that journey back down. It was a 2.5 hour drive, and I didn't know who was going to be there, and Otaronga College was a bit different for me because I was never in that town. I didn't live in that town. I went to school there, and I always went home on the weekends, and then I went to university. And so since then, I've never actually stopped and stayed. And so I had the opportunity to reflect back on my life. And I was really grateful for the upbringing that I had. And the important thing that I reflect back on is that my parents were really good with consequence. So I understood what consequences mean, and I understood that from a young age. I remember when I did something wrong, and it didn't happen very often, because I think I learned early that if you don't listen, there are consequences for that.
Could you say that again?
If you don't listen, there's consequences. But what I eventually learned later on in life.
No, I might put that on replay on the edits. No. Yeah, Carol. Sorry.
I have no idea what I was talking about, but I learned that consequence meant something, and that I found that I listened to my parents more and respected my parents more. And, the belting that I got, I cried more before I got straight. It was that time waiting.
Didn't we all?
But that was the consequence.
Yeah.
That follow through. He was always following through.
Do you remember the dreaded, you're sitting on the bed waiting for mum to come home and you're wondering,
Well, it was always, we got told to go to a room, and then because there's 3 boys, or there 4 of us, there was 3 of us that were really close, we were all in the same bedroom, bunks in a single bed. We'd always get naughty together, and it didn't happen very often, and we'd get sent to bed, and one of us got told to get the belt. And so we'd go in, give them a belt, we'd be all in bed crying, and it wouldn't be many, but there was that consequence, and you felt it. And so we tended to be quite good kids. So I think what I see lacking a lot nowadays is that consequence. There's no voluntary.
Yeah.
And it feels like parents are trying to give to their kids what they think they wanted, not actually what their kids need.
What they need, yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to say no to people, especially those that you love. But sometimes that's the consequence. You can't have that now.
Yeah.
You need to learn that lesson, and I think that's been a lesson that a lot of parents haven't learned.
We were actually going to get to that one too, but anyway. Just with well, actually it's coming up now. So with the community and in terms of the problems that you're seeing, what's the difference between, you know, when you were growing up in the community that you were coming up in, and the communities that you see around you right now? Is it getting worse? Are parents getting worse? Are the kids getting worse?
I just think it's different, and I think it's always going to be different. You know, we're not facing the same things that as kids we did as kids are today. Today kids are connected. They're connected through internet, and they're connected to information, lots of information. Whether that information is right, wrong, and whatever, they are bombarded with information. But what they're not bombarded with tends to be love and affection and touch and real connection. So it looks like I feel today a lot of the issues is that loss of that real connection, and it being substituted for the cyber connection that we're all addicted to our little phone.
We actually, because we're the same age. You might be a bit older, but anyway, maybe. But you know, we were brought up in an era where we actually saw the make of, you know, sort of technology, and we grew up coming, you know, sort of coming through it, and understanding how, you know, these days, like, I have to be honest, probably maybe it wasn't until the last maybe 20 years, I'd say, yeah, when I actually started getting into technology. Yeah, so, you know, I was like 23, you know, when I started realizing there's this type of technology. And, you know, back then it was things like LimeWire, you know, that's what we used to use to download our movies, and that, yeah, you know.
Pirate Bay.
Yeah, Pirate Bays, yes, and you used to
Not know what that is or authority.
you know, so that was sort of my introduction into it, and for me to actually use Google, like, I never used to know Google then. I knew how to download and how to do that stuff there before I realized, oh, maybe I should see what Google was all about, you know what I mean? Because from that, it sort of led to me understanding forums, and understanding how to go into hack forums, and then understanding how to use Google, and then go into YouTube, and then, you know, sort of, you know, everything sort of panned out from there on in. But, you know, I think you are absolutely correct. I think, you know, especially if kids maybe brought up maybe just before the millennium, you know, and the millennium, they sort of came in where technology was, you know, at a good time, you know. So, you know, when parents used to leave us at home, you know what I mean, go to work, you know, we find something to do. You know, we'll go out and play, find some mates, or, you know, get up to some kind of, you know, mischief sort of agendas. But these days, you know, the parents go away and they leave the kids at home, bang, straight on the net, you know, and they're looking at a whole lot of stuff. And what I find is, for a lot of kids, especially kids that we've worked with, we've found that they've been exploited at the age of 4 years old, to porn, and it has made them addictive to it. And their mind has mentally sort of taken that on, you know, and it's just taken them to a point where they start to cross more boundaries. We dealt with a situation where a brother got his sister pregnant, you know. This is at the age of 12, you know. So we were sort of, after talking to him, we started to understand, you know, where it all started from. I dealt with a situation like this, I think maybe 22 years ago, where I took on something similar. It was a similar sort of situation of a young kid back in Pomari. And, you know, at that time, I was pretty much the only person he could come to, because his whole family were sort of mob. And so he done the same thing with his sister, and then the family wanted to come after him. So, you know, we sort of looked at that and we went, well, you know, it's straight up just no one there, no discipline. And these two have built an affection, which was emotionally first, and then the physical came after.
Well, because there's a lack of it, you know, given to them, and so they have to find it somewhere. So I don't agree with that, but at the end of the day, we've got to learn to accept that's happened. What can we do, and what can we learn from it? What is it that we can learn from it, rather than say banish them and blame them for, or judge them for what?
That's right.
We weren't in those circumstances.
No, that's right.
We don't know how we would have acted if we had been living what they had been living in.
And, you know, so they come up and, you know, they've made these mistakes, so it's all right for us to say, oh, Mum left me home and I went and stole some food. Oh, oops, you know what I mean. But see, with these kids here, these days they're doing things where society's coming down hard on them. You know what I mean, hard on them, and they're pretty much saying like, even to the point where a lot of these kids, which is my next question, are committing suicide now. You know, family members and I know everyone's got family members, nieces and nephews that sort of hit that route, and you know, it's surprising to see so much. Like, we're right up there on the suicide scale for teenage suicide in the world. I think when I last looked, we're at number three. We're number three in the world. I think it was USA was number one, but yeah, we're sitting right up there, and there has to be a change. There has to be a change, but I think sometimes people don't want to, or they don't want to be the ones. They like to say, "Oh no, you do it." It's like when it comes to learning. A lot of parents go, "Oh no, that's what school's for," but they don't realize they gotta have help at home.
Well, it's a
Yeah.
lesson for everyone to learn. Like,
Mm.
I guess I've got my own experiences with suicide. When I was 19, I tried to commit suicide. I had to come out. I was still at the halls of residence at that stage, and I was still grappling with who I was. I hadn't kissed anyone at that stage. I hadn't done anything with anyone. I guess I didn't want to, but I knew I was. And so it come to a crunch. I was not doing so great at school, at uni. I just wasn't focused, and I was quite lost. And at that stage, I was living with 400 other people, so it's not like I was alone, but I felt isolated, and
Why?
I felt isolated. I think for the fact that I didn't think I was going to be accepted for who I was, and I was scared that I wasn't going to be accepted. My parents are loving and great and had been up to that point, but when you're a gay kid growing up and you hear derogatory comments constantly, and it's never at you, but you associate with it, can't help but. And when you have your parents and they're watching TV programs and a gay person comes on and it's not a positive comment, it's tough
Yeah.
and it's isolating. And even though if you do know gay people, you hear the stories of how difficult some of them had it. And so when I went through my incident, I was lucky that I had a really good friend that came when it happened. He didn't know and found out and took me to hospital. And it was while I was in hospital that I was reflecting on what I almost did. And and I understood how selfish that was, how my parents would have felt, my friends. And even to this day, I think there's only 3 people that I've shared that with. Because it was tough and um, it was embarrassing, to be honest. I was doing, apart from that semester, I was playing sport, I had a great life, I had a job, I had opportunities, but I felt really low because that's where I felt. And I was just lucky that I had some really key support around me that pulled me through. And, I look back now, I think I'm very grateful to have that experience and that learning at that age because, later in life I had darker moments and I never considered it.
Yeah.
I understood and I learned what that was like going through it. And so all I can say is, there's a lot of suicide going on at the moment, and I think there's a lot that we can do, but we can't expect others to do it. And what I mean by that is we can't expect the government to just pour money into it, or any organisation to pour money in it and think that's the answer. It's not. It's about people actually accepting each other, and that I hear it and it resonates a lot more now when people say just strip yourself, and you've got to accept yourself first and allow people to accept you as you are. and it's that your uniqueness that's your specialty, and that should be celebrated, not what your normality is. So it's not about blending in with everyone else.
That's right.
It's actually celebrating what it is about you that makes you special, whatever it is. And no matter how scary you think that might be to share that with other people, there are going to be people that accept you as you are. And I guess the tough thing to learn as a youngster is that even though people might not agree with you at that time or understand you, it just takes time. And if they truly love who you are and support you, that it may take some time. You know, when I told my parents 6 months after that I was gay, the reaction was surprising. My dad said to me, because it took me all weekend to tell them, I went back specific to do it. And every time I wanted to tell them someone would come or dad would be gone or something would happen. And it wasn't until I was getting into my car to come home to university, and I stopped in the garage with both parents there, and I just said to them, I've got to tell you something, I'm gay. And the funniest thing is my dad said straight away, that's funny, Mum. Didn't you tell me that you had a dream that Ash was going to tell us this today? I just looked at him and he goes, I love you, son.
Yeah.
My mum said, I don't agree with it, but I still love you and support you. And that was the best thing ever. And then the next question was, so do you have a boyfriend? And my answer was no. So, well, if you've got someone to bring home, why don't you tell us? And that's just how my parents have been. And so I was very fortunate to have a really positive experience with coming out. And the support from all my family has been amazing. I've not had any negative response to it. And so I guess I've been really fortunate that way, because I know a lot of people haven't had that same experience as me. I had a friend of mine tell me recently that they found out one of their children is gay. And that was interesting because the reaction wasn't as supportive as I thought it would be. But I also knew that I couldn't berate them for it. That's how they are feeling. That's how they feel. And sometimes it just takes a bit of time for them to actually look at it from someone else's point of view.
Yeah.
You know, and I said to my friends, it's like, well, I can understand how you feel, but how does your child feel? You know, what is it? I know they haven't told you, but it's not exactly the easiest thing to tell a parent. I know they're supposed to be open and honest, but at what point do you feel that an attraction with someone actually means more? Some people it's a day, some people it's a year, some people it's 10. And just because it's been thinking in their mind that they haven't told you, I think they should be focusing on the fact that they have, that they've actually opened up who they are to you a bit more. And we should be embracing them for that, and not berating or excluding or hurting them because of that. I just think we need to be a bit more accepting of others. Yeah. And that's just not sexual orientation, it's accepting of others, especially if they are different.
You know, some people would say I'm different. There'll be another conversation. Anyway, not to play down. My mother was a very hard woman, and anyone that knows my mother would be, my siblings would be able to think. But I remember this one time, like, you know, I was so angry with her. You know, I was so angry with her because it was something stupid, and I remember my old lady, like a couple of weeks beforehand, my cousin tried to commit suicide. He tried to cut his wrists, and he, you know, sort of was in the bathtub. And my mother walked in and saw him, and you know, like, you know, she looked at him and she went, "Oh, should I come back later?" You know. So, you know, we just sort of knew, like, you know, just that hard upbringing from that sort of era. Like, we just sort of knew we couldn't really, you know. However, you know, me being who I am, my chance, my luck anyway. And one day, I decided to cut myself, and I walked. We got into a big argument, and I cut myself on the arm and had blood coming out. And I said to her, you know, this is for you. I'm finished. Like, I was like maybe 10, 11 years old. You know, I was like, such a drama queen, you know, just for you. I had enough. And she goes, "Oh, you're cutting the wrong way." She goes, "If you're going to cut your wrist, you cut the other way so it gets to your tendons." So she said, "If you're still alive in 5 minutes, you're going to get a hiding for putting that blood on my floor." So, got a hiding. You know, yep. And never done that again. But I think, you know, the thing of my mother was, it's not that she wouldn't, she had this saying that she used to say to all of us, if you're going to kill yourself, can you just do it? You know, because I've given you everything that you need. You know, I may not give you everything that you want, but I give you everything that you need. If that's not good enough and you're going to talk to kill yourself, just do it. You know what I mean? She was a realist. And she used to like put us in a position of understanding, you know, be grateful for what you got. You know, don't try and, you know, don't try and, you know, don't be angry over little things when they're doing the best that they can. They can't provide you with everything. Like, we were brought up in the Bronx, so we were brought up in Newtown Park Flats, you know, and like, if anyone knows anything about Newtown Park Flats, like it's absolutely, that's in Wellington, yeah. So, you know, it's absolutely crowded, and, you know, just, you know, refugee, you know, everything, you know what I mean. And, you know, I think after hanging around with a lot of what I would call sort of richer friends, you know, I started to question her work ethic. You know, you know, absolutely ungrateful. But you know, these are things that we have to learn. You know what I mean? These are and so what happens is, you know, the stupid things that I do, sort of it puts a damper on people who's actually going through the problems. You know what I mean? Hey, so, you know, you see like a lot of people sort of talk that stuff. They didn't really mean it, but what they do is they play the boy or girl who cried wolf for somebody else who's actually, you know, and they need help. You know, and I don't know what it's like for a young man, you know, to try and tell his parents, you know, that he's gay, or even a young woman, you know. But you know, I got a lot of nieces. I had a hooky who was on here with us just a couple of weeks ago, and you know, she's gay, and her mother's a pastor. You know what I mean? But her mother was exactly sounds like what your mother is said. I don't agree with it, but I love you no matter what. You know, and doesn't judge her, and just stuck with her, and that gave her the openness to just be who she was supposed to be.
Then I think if we all could do that to anyone, regardless if we like them or not, and I think if you can do that with people you don't like, you can learn to respect them and allow them to have their point of view. You don't have to agree with them. You don't. But you don't have to attack them either.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're going wrong. Is we don't agree, so we're going to try and pull you down or discredit you. It's like, well, actually, everyone's got a right to have an opinion. And everyone's got a right to voice that opinion, whether we like it or not. I don't like Donald Trump. I don't agree with his policies. But at the end of the day, he's got a voice and he's allowed to say what people he likes.
Did you say you don't like Donald Trump? I think he's absolutely entertaining. I don't think that's how a leader should be acting.
He's quite effective at what he's doing. I think, you know, he's got an agenda and he's going after it, and he's putting $120 billion behind it. You know, and
have you seen the stats for the unemployment in America right now? It's risen 25% since he's been in office. Oh. Well, so yeah, but I understand. I think he's entertaining, but I don't know if that's how a leader should be acting. But I think what he does is he puts it out there, so he gets the rubbish out of the way. You know, because media will try and grab every single little thing that they can.
And to be honest, I don't think it's a bad thing him being there.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a good lesson to say, well, this is what you voted in, and this is your consequence, America. Yeah. Learn from it. You know, learn from it. And if you decide to go there again, well, God.
Not to get on this political talk, because you know I'm not a fan of political talk, you know. But what do you think of Jacinda?
Oh, I
do.
I like
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean I agree with all the policy, but I don't agree with everyone
No, that's right.
anyway.
Yeah.
But I like her as a person. I like her intent. She's a people person, and she's trying to help people. The policy is all about people.
I love the way she represents our country too. You know, I saw her on a talk show over in America. I think it was, I forgot who it was, but it was one of the major ones. And like, she was just an absolute Kiwi. You know, she represented Kiwi the way that Stephen Adams, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know.
I like her. I've always liked her. I don't particularly agree with her policies, but that's okay. As the Prime Minister, is she the best one that we've got at the moment out of all the people that are there? Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. All right. Now let's get down to the nitty gritty. Indo Nepal.
One of my passions. One of them.
How long have you been coaching and playing this game for?
My first game of indoor netball would have been in the early 90s in Te Awamutu. When I was living in Kāpia, there was a bunch of ladies that used to play in Te Awamutu, and I used to coordinate trying to either pick me up or take me. And every Wednesday, and the team was called the Endeavours, and I was the only boy playing in their team, and that's introduced me to indoor netball. Before that, I was playing outdoor netball because in primary school we played every sport. We're a small school, there's 100 kids, so the girls had to play rugby, the boys had to play netball, and we just played every sport. Our soccer team was mixed, our hockey team was mixed. And that's where I learned netball, and I was really fortunate that every year there was a men's team that came down, and I lived across the road from the school, so every time it was on, I was down there, I was shooting goals. I just loved the game from being a young boy, and I didn't play during high school. It wasn't until we went to university that I started playing back again in Hamilton, and I was just playing socially with some friends in the halls of residence. And then I got spotted by Cows, who's a really good friend of mine, and he was in the New Zealand indoor mixed team and the New Zealand men's team, and he pulled me in to play with his mixed team, his mixed ones team. So I was about 21 at that stage, and that's how I learned the game of indoor netball, was through Cows and playing with Alice Street under 21, and then into the 3-2-1 men's, and then moved up to Auckland in 2000 and played with Balmoral. The owner of Balmoral was the owner of Alice Street back in the day.
Okay.
Played for Balmoral, and I think played for Planet, played for Monaco. And that was when I was in my prime. I was a bit young and could run around and jump and shoot and do all that kind of stuff. And when I moved up to Auckland, I kind of became the coach, manager, and player. And so I kind of pulled together my own team with my friends. Most of them have moved up from Hamilton as well. And it becomes a big family, and you just connect with people.
Now, your national championship holders for over 40s. That's for indoor. Outdoor. You guys still hold that, or did you lose it?
Yeah, I lost it. I think the last time I won the outdoor title for overs or masters was back in 2015.
Right.
The first one that I played when I come back. With silver over 35s champions, not over 35. Great.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yes, because they cut that, a couple of years. All right, so outdoor men's that just finished happening. We have new men's champions, is that right?
That's right. Waikato took the title, I think it's the first time in 24 years.
Yeah.
That Waikato won it. Well, Canterbury had a pretty strong hold on it for quite a while, like 18, 19 years. And then Harbour recently. And Waikato had what I would call pretty much a superstar team, if you ask me, in terms of the quality throughout the court, the experience that they had, and they were always going to be tough to beat. But the other teams had opportunities, they just weren't able to consistently outplay them. Harbour, Waikato had a lot of strength throughout the whole court in terms of experience. Some Australian players going back to play for Waikato, and some returning players going back to play for their original home county, if you can call it that.
Yeah.
And so it was really nice to be part of. I played for the Bees this year. We were trying to go into the Masters, didn't quite have enough old people to come and play with us, so we had to play in the B grade, but we did quite well considering. I enjoy it. The body just doesn't last as long as it needs to. It's
Yeah.
not quite as fast enough. The body, the mind's willing, the body isn't.
The now 23s new champions.
Wellington,
Yeah.
new champions down there, and the 23s grade was really, really tight.
Yeah.
All three teams were knocking on the door. Waikato were a really strong team again, and just really lost it in key moments in two key games, and they didn't make the final. And so Wellington, you knocked them out. Rotorua had gone unbeaten until that final, when Wellington finally got together and outplayed them really. And so
Wow.
you've got to play it until that last whistle in that last game. You've got to make sure you've got enough to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think when me and Elijah was trying to look through and have a look at the players for the Wellington team, I said, "Is Karen in there? Is it those boys that come in?" He goes, "No, I don't know any of these who these guys are." And I said, "They might be Cook Strait players. There might be a combination of Cook Strait and Wellington players. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, you look at the Waikato team. A lot of those players have played. A number of them have played for Auckland and Harbour, and there tends to be a lot of fluidity throughout teams. And personally, I don't mind that. I'd rather that people play than not play. So if they don't play for a particular team, I think that I'd rather people play and have that opportunity to play for whoever they wanted. I'm not really stuck on club or team loyalty. I think loyalty is something that you build over time, and it's not really
Loyalty is to a person. I believe if your friendship to a person, not a club. Yeah.
But friendship also has to have respect. And that you should, regardless of the relationship, respect their choice and what they're wanting to do.
That's right.
A really good friend of mine asked me, who's been chased by a number of clubs, and he wasn't sure who he should play for, and he asked my opinion, and I said, well, at the end of the day, it's your choice. You just got to be aware of the consequences. Go in with your eyes open, not closed. Go in and understand what they expect. I've been really fortunate to be part of the Coach Gold program this year, and I was part of the group of about 90 coaches throughout Auckland, all community coaches, through lots of different sports. So we had rollerblading, gymnastics, rock climbing, softball, cricket, golf, every kind of sport you can imagine. There were all these different coaches, and we met for 4 workshops and 4 forums. And it was facilitated by the community coaches throughout Auckland. So 2 different regions had their community coaches there, and they led the discussion. And I learned a lot through their coaches. So it wasn't stuff that we learned from the facilitators. I was actually listening to other coaches of different codes, and we were all there for the same mission. Although the technique and the skills that we were trying to coach or teach our individual or team players, the underlying current was we all understood what we were all trying to do, and we all had the same kind of issues, and we all had the same kind of ideas. But of being able to share those ideas and being able to cherry pick things that work for you. And so, and through that, I learned more about coaching. And so, I've been coached a lot, and I thought coaching was all about the skill and understanding, knowing what to do and how to execute it. And through these forums, it's kind of opened my eye to the bit that I kind of forgot about or wasn't really putting enough attention or energy into, and that was the third thing, which is about culture. And so more recently, I've been really focusing on that and incorporating it's just as important as the technical and the skills. And so they talked about the head, the heart, and the hands. The head is the knowledge, the understanding, and the tactics. The hands are actually the skill and the execution and the speed. And the heart is the connection, and it's the values, and it's the shared values and expectations that we have, and the personal why. And so if you can tap into all three, you're able to have a stronger team and you're able to get a connection. And that's something that I've learned previously. All my coaching, the sideline coaching, and even training was really focused on technique and understanding. And I really didn't focus a lot of my attention on the value of the heart. And so that's something that I've tried to start instilling now, and just bit by bit, every team that I'm part of or coaching or playing a part of, I try and bring that up, especially at the start, because I think it's really important that you have shared values.
Mm.
You know, one of the first workshops that we did, which kind of I freaked out about before I got there, actually got given these questions and stuff, is what is your greatness as a coach? And I, you know, again, even as they were introducing it, I sat there and I was thinking, what? I'm just learning. You know, I don't know what, you know, coach's philosophy. What's this? You know, I was a bit freaked out. And as we got through it, it's just, what are your values? Why are you doing this? And what do you want to get out of it? And by understanding that and identifying that, you understand why you're a great coach and how you can become a better coach.
Mm.
Because you've got some key things that you can, that this is what I'm about. You know, owning it. It's like being yourself as a coach and identifying those things that are really precious to you, that you really value, and being able to share that with your team. And another thing I've kind of realised is that you can't force those values on your team. You've actually got to allow them to bring those forward and
Yep.
highlight those, and you've got to work with those shared values. And so if they don't bring up a shared value, you can't force it on them. And it's something that they've got to agree with, understand, and really own, and it becomes part of that shared and collective thing that you want to start and become, and I think that's the start of being a good team.
Mm. Anyway, we're back. We're back. Let's see. Your mic going? Ah. All right. So we just having a little discussion on marijuana. By the way, do you
I have partaken.
Mm-hmm. You know
To be honest, I've had a very good life. I've travelled the world, and there are a lot of things that I've experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Not always legal, although most of it is an extent, but that's okay. Yeah, it's legal. And I guess I've never been a big alcohol drinker. I've never really liked being drunk, and I hate the after effects even more, like being hungover. And I hated wasting money on stuff. So for me, alcohol was never really a big thing. I don't need a lot of alcohol to act like an idiot.
Mm.
I don't need it to dance. I don't need it to get up and speak to people. And so it's never been a crux for me. And I've always liked trying different stuff. And I didn't try anything until I was over the age of 25. And I've experimented a bit with different drugs overseas. I've tried MDMA, I've tried peat, I've tried cocaine, I've tried ecstasy, MDMA, and they all had their perks, but they all had their costs. And I guess I'm quite lucky that I kind of think in that kind of mentality is that there are risks with everything that you do.
So for you to do those type of drugs, and would I be correct in saying you weren't addicted to it at all? You could have cut it anytime you wanted?
I never pursued any of them. Like for me, it was going out and having some fun.
And it was there.
And it was available, and I tried it. And I've tried them several times, but I've never been a habitual user of any of those things.
Mm.
And I guess I'm just fortunate in that regard that I'm quite conscious of cost or conscious of consequence, and that it's really an individual choice with everything that we do.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
you know, it's with everything that you do, whether it be food, alcohol, work, sex, relationships. It's all about moderation and trying to find the right balance for you.
You say moderation in sex?
Well, if it, some people have it a bit too much. Some people will like it a bit too much. And some people like
Sorry.
everyone else's
Sorry.
favourite.
My earphones went off on that one.
I appreciate it. But yeah, I think you chocolate addiction too much, it's going to kill you.
No, that's right.
Too much of alcohol is going to kill you. Too much of food is going to kill you. But those are all lessons that individually we have to make, and then we have to live with those consequences. You can't blame anyone else apart from yourself, because it's you that makes you do it.
Now, you know about the bill that's going to be passed in 2020 about they're going to revote again on the marijuana being legalized in this country. How do you think that's going to go for us?
I'm not sure how it's going to go. If I get a vote, I'll be most likely pro. Um, I feel the benefits outweigh the costs, and I also understand that the reasons why they're trying to limit it, and I think a lot of the reason, I'm not going to say excuses, the reason that people put forward is fear, and I think lobbying by people who are going to miss out on money. And I guess that's my biggest bugbear, is that we should be really looking at these kinds of things for the benefit of the people. And yes, there are costs. And yes, if you use it too much or you abuse it, yeah, it's going to have consequences. But that's the same with alcohol. That's the same with food. You know, they say drug. Well, everything's almost a drug. Everything has a chemical or some kind of formula that's put together. You look at our food, they're becoming more drugs than real food every day and every year. So I just think, and I've seen benefits from people that I know that are health related, and by using some medical marijuana, and that's not just smoking it. I actually know some people who use it as a tea.
Yep.
And them to see real benefits from it. In terms of their symptoms and their quality of life.
That's actually what I wanted to sort of jump on. So I pulled up something. So the marijuana plant, okay, so let's have a look at this. Epilepsy, arthritis, cardiovascular disease, certain parts of cancer, diabetes, gastrointestinal disorders, multiple sclerosis, PTSD, antibiotic resistant infections, and anxiety. Like, straight away, like you're talking about things that are relevant to right here, and we're talking about sort of pharmaceutical companies like Big Pharma, AMA, all those American, like those pharmaceutical companies over there in America. Like they do is they swipe out little pharmaceutical companies, take and that's all it is,
It's never about actually improving people's health. It's about getting people addicted to their products, just like a good marketing company, to be able to make profit for their shareholders. That's all they're about. It's a product to make money off. It's not a product to actually help. That's how they kind of phrase it.
And I think they're trying to do the same thing as I would see in my eyes in terms of marijuana, because with marijuana here, so they say that it's illegal to have it, but yet we've got marijuana farms governed by the government itself, research facilities here in Auckland, Tauranga, all through New Zealand. We've got marijuana farms, and they call it medicinal research purposes. And it's amazing to watch them, realize that there are good things about it. That they need to bring in something that's a contradiction to what they're talking about in terms of it's illegal, but we'll bring it in and we'll research it anyway. And the testimonies that you've gotten from people all over the world, especially over in Australia, I think where the big movement sort of hit. We were watching that on Netflix actually, where they started pushing the movement of marijuana, how it has positive effects for people. So then they say, okay, then we'll let it go, but you're only allowed the CBD. You're not allowed the tetrahydro part of it. It's like so we're not allowed the THC, but we're only allowed to see CBD. But you can have THC, but only allowed 2%. Here in this country. Yet researchers said that it works better with THC. Talking about the judgment, and for Christians, I'm going to say Christians or people of the church, the judgment that they have on the gay community. Why do you think it's so harsh? Why do you think they are the way that they are?
I think it's culture. I think it's an ideology that was introduced out of fear and out of ignorance, and that they try and mask it with all this stuff that really isn't relevant to individuals and trying to group them. I mean, you look throughout history, there's always been a group or groups that are persecuted, being different. You look at South Africa and even America, it wasn't that long ago where blacks were discriminated.
That's right.
And, I think we're becoming a bit more involved. And, society and people and our culture is always going to change. Māori culture has been evolving and changing over time. The New Zealand culture is evolving and changing, and I think worldwide that culture is changing. But in terms of the church, I think it's scaremongering. I think it's fear slightly. And there are churches out there that do accept people for exactly who they are.
There are.
And I wouldn't tarnish all Christians with that brush, all churches. And I think that, and it all comes down to the people in power. It doesn't come down to demonstrations, it comes down to people that influence. Trump, in America, he's the person of influence there. But it doesn't mean his influence is forever.
Yeah. I don't think, Trump is one, but I think when it comes to America, they have their own little groups there that actually, that are absolutely anti-gay, and we've seen a little tiny bit of here in Aotearoa, not as big, not as big, because people over here in Aotearoa have that understanding, but I think it's
a lot to do, and I think a lot of the older generation are letting go of that fear. It is slowly changing. We are becoming a bit more open-minded in some respects and closed-minded in others. But it is slowly changing, and that's through a lot of hard work by a lot of good people that are on here.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I've been talking to people about is like, they keep on going back, the Bible says this, the Bible says this, the Bible says this,
What is the Bible? The Bible was written word by man, an opinion.
Yep.
It's like every other book that's out there. Whether it be fiction or not, it's someone else's translation of an opinion of a life story, and that's what it is. And I don't discredit the essence of what's there and the good knowledge that can be passed down, but to take it literally after it's been translated from a different language, and how many years ago was it written? And that has been no update. Probably the only book in the world, books in the world that
I think on that particular notion there,
now to suit the people of now, to suit what is going to be enabling us to be better people, to improve.
So, when they talk about, the Bible says this, the Bible says that, I always say to them, like, before you knew about the Bible, who did you know of in the Bible? And it's the same things as Jesus. What did Jesus say and do? The very words that you're talking about, did he say that? You know what I mean? But when it comes down to the sort of manuscripts and all that sort of stuff, like, we've probably gone quite deep into that, and understanding the theology and that, and like the manuscripts and how many manuscripts, they said that the manuscripts that were that they had to translate at the time, the Empire State Building, if you put it on top of itself 5 times, that's how many manuscripts they had to translate. The Bible is probably the most read book. One person read the book 500 times. That's how much they were proofreading what they were saying, you know what I mean? So in terms of that, like, I can understand those parts there and understand the translations. And when it came to what was happening in terms of them translating, like, a lot of people get this sort of notion that, they just saw the Bible and they went, you know what, let's translate it into this. Yeah, okay, then let's go translate. But they don't understand is, like, back in them times, so when you go in from Roman, like the Roman Catholics, like, they were the first ones to sort of like put out the, the Bible, but it actually was some rebel priests, I'll call them, that actually took the new, because they wouldn't release the Roman Catholics wouldn't release the New Testament. They said, no, they can have the Old Testament, but they can't have the New Testament. That's to be read by only us. And the rebel priests, I'll call them, they said, no, this is for the people. This says it's for the people. So you had people who sort of stole it and tried to get it quickly translated before they got killed or they got caught. And it was on that sort of time frame that they were sort of like trying to. So they, the first one got caught, he got burnt, and all his followers got burnt to the stake. And then the next one was a guy named William Tyndall, where he came along and he, done the best that he could. And before they could catch him, he fled over to Germany, and then he sort of made his way back when he thought it was safe. But then he got caught, he got burnt to the stake. But at the same time, these guys that were, that they were getting caught and their followers were getting caught, they were still making New Testament upon New Testament upon New Testament, trying to get it out, and every printing place that they were going, they were being hunted by soldiers, So the essence, if we're going to talk about the essence of how those books came about, they came with dedication, nothing but love for the people and hope, because when that book got out, which is what the Roman Catholic Church didn't want, is because there was an oppression by the hierarchies of England at the time. This book gave them hope. So what basically said to them is, regardless how they're going to treat you here on earth, those who put you last here on earth, you shall be first in heaven. God will put you first in heaven. So it gave them hope, and they gave them a want to keep on going and will keep on living. And so what happened was, when King James came, he changed everything. And he said, no, let it be printed for all the people, and let them all have copies. That's why we got the King James version, so when he came along. And I think when people talk about the idea of it was for man's, they had they done it for a purpose. They did do it for a purpose. It was to get it out, and these are historical events all through time, so this is how it was translated, for people giving their life to it, dedicating their life to want to share this with other people, And so when it comes to those sort of things there, I'm pretty I can speak to that, and I can back every single one of those things up. At the same time, I can speak to when people say, no, it says this and this and this and this, you know what I mean? And I just say to them,
That's your perspective.
yeah,
I appreciate it.
yeah, But anyway, let's for the rangatahi that are sort of gay in the community, and you were talking about before how they find it hard to come out to their families, and there's a lot of things going on, and and I don't know personally of any helplines. Do you know of any helplines?
I don't. We didn't have helplines back in my day, I don't think. I know that there's Youthline, although whether that's still being funded or not, I'm not too sure. A couple of my friends do work on Youthline, and they were struggling for funding recently. I guess my best thing would be look for someone you can actually speak to.
Yeah.
And whether that's someone you know, or a coach, or a teacher, just train someone. And I guess the hardest thing is from the other's perspective, is what to say. I know that when I'm upset, the last thing I want someone to say is, how are you? Or what's wrong? I think a lot of people, and even myself, is we don't know what's wrong. Sometimes we just want to be able to talk about things, and the hardest thing I find is getting them to open up and just get them to start talking, whether it's about what's bothering them or not, and being able to get there. And so I think that's probably one of the biggest hurdles we face when trying to speak to rangatahi, is trying to, one, get them in a comfortable environment, a safe environment, where they can speak their mind without being judged. And how you create that, I'm not too sure. I did see on Facebook today that there was a group called Brothers in Arms, and they're a mentoring charity, and they're actually having an awareness presentation on the 1st of November, and I'll share it with you later, where they're having an open discussion about how we can approach rangatahi, maybe having these issues. And I think by attending that and listening and sharing, we might get a better understanding. of how we can help, what we can do. And I think the biggest thing is that as individuals who have been affected by it, that we make time to attend these things, and make time to be open and to be open to people. And it could be it could be in those times when you don't think people are watching that you probably need to show that, because you never know who might be watching.
That's right.
You never know who might just need someone to talk to. And if you close yourself off, they're not going to feel, they're going to know that. I think people in vulnerable situations know if someone doesn't want to hear your problems, really not engaging with you, and doesn't want to hear your drama. And I think just saying, hey, how's it going? And just getting to open up, and everyone's really different. So how you do that really depends on that person and how thoughtful you are of them, and how well you know them.
All right. So, in regards to that, just find somebody who they can talk to.
And I think, as adults and as leaders and as coaches, we have a great influence on people around us. And, and it's not just kids trying to commit suicide. It's everyone. And it doesn't just affect rangatahi, but it affects people all throughout their life. My experience with trying to commit suicide was when I was younger. And, I reflect back and I think I'm so grateful I went through that, because I had much darker times after that point, and it was never an option. Never an option. No matter how bad I felt at the time, that was never going to be an option for me. I was not going to bow out like that, and I wasn't going to be disrespectful to my friends, family, and partner. And I think, that's something that I think we need to be aware of. It's not just you, it affects so many other people.
Do you want to say that? Just, can you give it a mic?
Yeah. And I just think as someone who's been in ear as a support person, no judgments, regardless of what you think personally or whatever the consequences, just be the support there and just love the person, because nobody cares what your opinion is, or they
just want to be loved.
Yeah, and
that's all they want.
So no judgments, and that's what I would suggest is if someone comes to you with a problem, no judgments at all.
Well, I think I'm gonna close it off there. I just want to thank the brother Ash for coming on board, and you know what, I actually enjoyed this. I'd love to have you back again. Much love and respect for you and your whānau and everything that you're doing in the community, and appreciate you. As a coach, I'm still gonna try and make you cry. Absolutely love what you're doing out there, and keep it up, and hey, we're gonna do a lot more together.
This one goes out to Newtown Park Flats, born and bred, Wellingtonian style, the capital, land of the free. Here we go, smooth it out now. Just letting you know where I'm from, baby. Newtown, Southside. Oh, it runs deep inside. So bring it to me now. Mine goes round and round, my honey. Smooth it out. Dignity, full of pride. Growing up in this place I used to call my home. We were so young, I never had a mobile phones. Just us in them fields and them playground kids. We used to walk, run around and just be kids. We had our problems and them everyday bangs, but never did we worry. We just play on swings, me and my mom. We never ever lost that vibe, cause as hard as it was, you kept our hopes alive. We had you who gave us them grounds to play. We had you who never ever went away. We had you to father us into men. We had you provide a roof for us to live in. What I'm trying to say is not a day goes by that I don't love the memories inside my mind. I thank you for them times in my childhood days. I wouldn't be the man I am today. So let me say, hey, just letting you know where I'm from, baby. Newtown, Southside. Oh, it runs deep inside. Just bring it to me now. Mine goes round and round, my honey. pipes all the way to the top. We're playing down there till the fireman said stop. Remember lying to Ma just to hang downstairs and getting caught. They getting whipped from her. All my mates cracked up, turned around and said, hey. We just laughed, played around and sang a song instead. I remember all the monsters who were painted down there. I used to tell them all my problems when I was a kid. I would laugh, I would cry, but I always found a smile. Cause life in them flats was like party time. I remember the list was like another world. I must have went up and down trying to find you, girl. I'm on the flats all day in the life it gave. I thank you, my friend. You always kept it real from day one. You were always there to stay, and to this day your memories will never fade away. So thank you. Just